Welcome to the deep dive. You know that old Witchcraft Secrets PDF you sent
Oh,
over?
yeah.
We're gonna crack it open today. It's gonna be like a crash course in witchcraft, with the spells and the rituals, maybe even a little astral projection.
We'll be your guide to the world of witchcraft, exploring the ins and outs of its practices and, separating the truth from the tall tales.
Right off the bat, this PDF makes a distinction between magic and magic, with a K.
Right.
What's the deal with that extra K?
Well, it's interesting. The PDF uses that spelling, magic with a K, to kind of differentiate from, stage magic and illusions and point to something deeper, something more spiritual. It's about, personal power connecting to the energy of the universe. So that K, in a way, it's like a little symbol of a whole belief system.
So less pulling a rabbit out of a hat, more like harnessing unseen forces.
Exactly, yeah. And, speaking of harnessing forces, this PDF, it really emphasizes belief and willpower. It even suggests that, just believing in an outcome can be like a ritual in itself.
Bro, hold on. Are we talking like pure mind over matter here?
Yeah.
Just believing hard enough can make things happen.
That's the core idea they're getting at, yeah.
Yeah.
The PDF, it digs into this idea of intention, and how it can, shape our reality. It's like that thing, the placebo effect in medicine, right?
Right.
Where belief can actually lead to real results.
Makes you wonder, what if we all have more power than we think to kind of influence the world around us?
It's a good question. And the PDF doesn't stop at these kind of vague ideas about belief. It gets into a practical framework for, actually putting this magic into practice. And it all starts with rituals.
Okay, so let's break that down. It talks about like a basic ritual structure, visualization, prayer, and then the ritual itself, right?
Yeah.
And it really, really emphasizes how important vivid visualization is.
And what I find really fascinating is that the PDF actually connects visualization techniques that practitioners use to, athletes do. They both visualize success, right? Whether it's winning a race or manifesting their dream job. So it's like it suggests that our minds are these powerful tools that we can use to kind of shape our reality.
So whether you're on a meditation cushion or a basketball court, visualizing that win is key.
That's what they're saying. It seems to point to this. Like universal principle, you got to align your thoughts, your energy with what you want to achieve.
And then it gets even more interesting, right? The PDF goes on to guide us through creating a magic circle, this sacred space for rituals. And it even tells you exactly what to say to invoke the elements, earth, air, fire, water.
Yeah, and that combination of physical elements with a spoken word.
Yeah.
It creates this whole multi-sensory experience. Can you imagine, sprinkling salt to designate earth,
Yeah.
or lighting a candle to symbolize fire?
Right.
It's about creating a real atmosphere, a tangible way to connect with the energy that you want to bring in.
Almost like setting the stage for a performance,
Exactly, yeah.
And speaking of captivating experiences, the PDF dives into the world of astral projection.
Yeah.
We're talking out-of-body experiences here.
Yeah.
It claims to have a technique for that.
It does. It outlines this whole method with relaxation, mental exercises, and getting into this very specific state of mind. And while it might sound a little out there, it does actually connect with what we know about the brain's ability to experience these altered states of consciousness,
Interesting.
through meditation or even hypnosis.
So we might not be able to scientifically prove astral projection, but it does make you think about the potential of our minds
Oh, sure.
and maybe even the nature of consciousness itself.
Exactly. Yeah. It's tapping into that very human desire to, to explore beyond what we can see and touch and understand the mysteries of our own, consciousness and existence.
And just when you thought it couldn't get any wilder, the PDF drops another big one, auras.
Right.
So tell me about these auras.
Well, as it describes it, the human aura is this energy field that surrounds living beings.
Okay.
And it's a concept that pops up all over the world throughout history. You see it in ancient halos and even, modern energy healing.
And get this, the PDF, it even has a color chart. It links specific aura colors to personality traits. Black for, malice, red for energy, green for empathy. I mean, it's a whole rainbow of personality indicators. What do you think? Is there any truth to those colors, or is it all just a bit too subjective?
Yeah, it's definitely a fascinating concept. But to be honest, there's no real scientific evidence to back up these interpretations of aura colors.
Okay.
But it is an interesting lens to, to look at ourselves and how we interact with the world around us, right?
Yeah,
Maybe a visual representation of the energy we give off, the energy we attract.
it's true.
Yeah, and it plays into that human desire to understand the unseen forces that shape our lives and our experiences.
Okay. We've talked about like harnessing energy and stuff, but this PDF, it doesn't just stop at the theory, it gets into the actual magic, right? The
Yeah.
spells.
Yeah, yeah.
And not just like one or two, we're talking a whole treasure trove of spells here. Love, protection, health, wealth, you name it.
It's like they've given us a magical toolkit for like dealing with all of life's curveballs.
Right.
And the interesting thing is, even though there are so many different spells, there are these recurring themes that pop up.
Okay.
Almost every single spell talks about how important it is to have like a really clear intention, to really
Right.
visualize what you want. And they all use specific ingredients too.
So it's not just saying the words, it's like creating this whole, I don't know, this whole experience, this whole vibe around what you're hoping for.
Absolutely, yeah. The PDF makes a point of saying that every ingredient, whether it's an herb or a crystal or even like a certain color candle, they all have their own like symbolic meaning, their own energy. And it's like that amplifies the intention behind the spell.
I was like, it's giving me like, DIY magic kit, brewing up a potion, but with intention.
Exactly.
Speaking of potions, let's talk about those love spells. The PDF definitely doesn't skimp on those. Any that stand out to you?
Let me see. Well, there are some for, attracting new love, rekindling an old flame.
Yeah.
There's even one for, like, gently encouraging someone to see your best qualities.
Yeah.
But, and this is a big but, the PDF really stresses that these spells, they shouldn't be about, like, manipulating someone or messing with their free will. They emphasize ethical considerations, saying that, ideally you're using these practices to attract love, not to force it on someone.
So no love potions that make someone fall head over heels against their will.
No, not exactly. More like aligning your energy with, the forces of the universe to draw what you want into your life. Not like bending someone to your will. They even compare it to like gardening.
Oh,
You can plant the seeds, you can nurture the soil, but you can't like force a flower to bloom.
I like that. It's a good analogy. So it's about working with those natural forces, not like taking a shortcut or trying to control everything. But what about protection? I know the PDF mentions protection spells too, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. There's a whole section on that. It talks about a range of different spells and rituals for, shielding yourself from negativity.
Okay.
And just like with the love spells, these practices, they kind of work on like both the physical and the mental level.
Yeah, it's not just about warding off evil spirits, but also about cultivating like inner peace and resilience.
Yeah, you got it. The PDF
This-
talks about like creating protective amulets,
Yeah.
using crystals or herbs, but then it also emphasizes things like cultivating positive thoughts, being mindful, setting healthy boundaries.
It's like you're building a fortress around your heart and mind.
Exactly. A holistic approach.
Now, besides matters of the heart and, protection, I noticed the PDF, it also talks about spells for health and well-being.
Yeah, yeah, it does.
And it seems to really highlight that connection between mind, body, and spirit.
That's a really important point. They suggest that, to really experience well-being, you have to address all three of those aspects.
There are even spells for, like, boosting your immune system or breaking a bad habit. Are they suggesting we ditch the multivitamins and go for a mystical concoction instead?
No, not quite. They do talk about the potential of these practices,
Yeah.
but they're also careful to say that, this stuff shouldn't replace actual medical advice.
Okay, good to know.
It's more like they see these things as working together,
I see.
complementing traditional treatments, maybe helping them work better by also looking at the emotional and spiritual side of healing.
So maybe a spell won't magically cure a cold, but it could help support your body as you rest and recover.
Right, exactly.
It's fascinating how the PDS blends this really practical advice with like some pretty out there mystical concepts.
Yeah.
And speaking of mystical, we got to talk about that section on dragons.
Oh, yeah, the dragons.
That's where things get really interesting.
Yeah, that's where the PDF takes a hard turn into like pure mystical territory.
Right.
A whole chapter dedicated to, working with dragons. These,
Oh.
these mythical creatures often linked to the elements and just like immense power.
Okay, so we're talking about like summoning dragons now. I got to admit, that's a new one for me.
Right. This is where it gets really symbolic. The PDF, it doesn't actually present dragons as, literal fire-breathing beasts. Instead, it's more about like them representing different aspects of nature,
Okay.
like earth, air, fire, water, and those potent energies that they embody,
Yeah. So less about having a dragon in your backyard, more about tapping into, like, I don't know, the raw power of a
No,
thunderstorm.
exactly. Yeah, like that. Or the quiet strength of a mountain,
Yeah.
you know. It talks about a dragon ritual, but it frames it as this way to align yourself with these elemental forces,
Okay.
to learn to work with their energy and maybe even like embody some of their qualities.
Interesting. Do you feel drawn to any of those elements, like, more than others?
Hmm, that's a good question.
I've always felt connected to water,
Yeah.
the way it can be, like, so calming, but then also incredibly powerful and destructive.
Yeah.
But before we get too carried away with, befriending water dragons, we have to talk about the flip side of all this magic. The PDF also warns about, negative energy. Right, right.
What it calls bad spirits.
Yeah.
It seems like every magical system has its share of darkness.
It's true, and it's definitely important to acknowledge that. I do appreciate that this PDF, it doesn't shy away from those darker aspects. It actually
Yeah.
has a whole section on, like, how to understand and deal with, those negative entities.
Okay.
But it's very big on, like, being cautious, being respectful.
So less Ghostbusters, more like tread lightly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It even goes as far as to categorize different types of ghosts, which is wild. Like, they
Yeah.
talk about these naturally occurring energy disturbances.
Mm.
And then also these things called, like, residual psychic imprints, which are kind of eerie. They describe them as, like, emotional echoes, like lingering in a place. Have you ever felt anything like that? Like a presence, or
Yeah.
maybe that's a story for another time,
Fair enough.
around a campfire or something.
Yeah.
But I do think it's interesting how the PDF gives, like, specific techniques for dealing with these different types of negative energies.
Right.
It's almost like it's saying, look, the unseen world, it's just as complex, as the physical world. It's just
Absolutely.
many layers and variations.
And just as worthy of our respect,
Mm.
like we have to approach it carefully. They're very clear that, messing around with these practices without really understanding them, it can be risky.
Right.
They really emphasize knowledge as like your best protection.
Speaking of knowledge, the PDF wraps up with something that I found incredibly helpful, a glossary of terms.
Oh, yeah.
It's like Witchcraft 101 vocabulary.
Right. Right. It's such a good resource, especially if you're new to, all of this. It explains everything from like the basic terms like altar and spell to these, more witchy phrases like so note it be.
Right.
I was referring back to it like throughout our whole deep dive.
Me too. And I think that really speaks to, like, how thorough and thoughtful this PDF is. It's not just throwing these, mystical sounding words at you. It actually takes the time to explain them in a way that, anyone can understand.
Yeah. It's like they're handing you a key and saying, all right, now you can explore this world.
Exactly. So there you have it, a whirlwind tour through the world of old witchcraft secrets. From harnessing belief to navigating the world of spells and rituals. What surprised you the most about all of this?
I was really struck by the balance that the PDF strikes.
Oh.
It embraces, the mystery and the magic, but it also really emphasizes like personal responsibility and ethical considerations.
Yeah.
It's less about like strict rules and more about, giving you a framework to find your own way.
Right. And I love how the PDF, it ends with this thought. Ultimately, regardless of where you go from here, you're going to have to figure out how to put all this together into one system, your own. It's such a good reminder that, like, the most powerful journeys, they often start from within.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
It's about, taking what resonates with you, leaving what doesn't, and ultimately creating your own path.
Exactly. So whether you're drawn to the magic of these ancient practices or you're just, interested in the power of the human mind, we hope this deep dive has inspired you to, keep exploring, keep asking questions, keep discovering the magic that exists within you and in the world around you. Thanks for joining us.